Sam, welcome to this. Thanks so much for being part of this project. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Can you just talk a little bit about who you are, how you came to be, and about the synagogue that you're in?
Sure. I am Sam Levine. I received cantorial investiture from the Jewish Theological Seminary, the H.L. Miller Cantorial School, back in 2004, and was hired right out of school by the East Midwood Jewish Center in Brooklyn. About 5 years ago, I went back to school to receive rabbinical ordination from the Academy for Jewish Religion. And I graduated from that program and now am acting as rabbi and cantor at East Midwood Jewish Center.
And can you tell us a little bit about the way that East Midwood, I remember East Midwood when I was a child, but what kind of service do you have now? Is it Orthodox, is it kind of conservative, or is it as you make it up as you go along?
The service, the congregation is conservative and still affiliated with the United Synagogue. The service itself is fairly traditional liturgically, though the congregation is very liberal in terms of their practice.
And did you grow up in that kind of in a conservative community? And where did you learn your chanting? Where did you hear?
I grew up in what I call a traditional synagogue. I grew up in Toronto, Canada. The synagogue that I attended, it was not really a synagogue, it was a minyan that had broken away from Bet Tzedek, which is the gigantic conservative synagogue in Toronto. And I think people were looking, it was during the height of the Chavurah movement, and people were looking for something a little more Hamish, but also very traditional. So it was non-egalitarian, it was separate seating, men and women, no mechitza, but separate seating. And most of the Baalei Tefillah were, Canadian conservative Ramah trained, folks. So their nusach was excellent. They sang beautifully. They were really just top-notch Baalei Tefillah.
Would you say you had what were your non-Jewish musical interests growing up?
Very varied. There was classical music in the house. I was particularly attracted to Baroque music. So I would say my main musical influences growing up were folk, rock, pop, that kind of thing. I was a huge Beatles fan and a huge Bob Dylan fan, and still am, really. But my tastes are very diverse.
Did you have classical voice training? And how would you characterize your approach to singing, to voice?
When I was growing up, I started davening very early. I mean, I was taught Musaf, just by a recording by one of the Baalei Tefillah at the shul. And people told me that I had a very nice voice. They liked the way that I davened. I never had any classical voice training until I was probably close to 30 years old, actually. So when I started thinking seriously about going to cantorial school, at that time, I started doing classical training. But no, growing up, it was just, I just had a nice voice. That was basically it.
Did you use a tenor, a bass, a baritone, what?
I am a baritone.
So moving now to your shul, and how would you characterize the aesthetic of your place? Is it very much a participatory one, a traditional one, an art music kind of ethos? Has it changed over the years you've been there? Can you talk a little bit about that? For
the years before I was there, I would say probably for a good 10 years before I was there wasn't really a full-time chazan. They hired somebody to come in once a month for Shabbat Mevarchim, and he would do the davening then. He lived in Philadelphia, though. He wasn't even really in the community. So it was mostly kind of the, balabatim, just members who were leading the service. And when I came in, I was trying to honor the tradition of the place, because there were some wonderful chazanim there. Joseph Adelson was the chazan there for many years. He had been the last chazan at the Great Synagogue in Warsaw before the Nazis marched in. And that was a position that was held by Moshe Kuzovitsky and Paul Kvartin, and just this, a list as long as your arm of the luminaries. So he was really very much in that tradition, but that's not what I am, and I don't have that chazanic style at all. But nevertheless, I appreciate it very much, and I wanted to honor it as much as possible. So I did reintroduce, my interpretation of chazanut here and there. But by and large, the congregation was, more, by the time I got there, more in the kind of chavurah style vein, participatory singing, but open to anything, really.
And so it sounds like it's a give and take between a very participatory congregation and your input, where you bring things to them, and it's back and forth in terms of decisions and who decides the melodies of the services. Is that a fair characterization?
No, I would say I decide the melodies.
Okay.
There is no standard set. Everything that we do now, I brought. Maybe I picked up a few things from people just because I liked them, but there was no expectation. And my MO is to really vary things as much as possible. So, I have my set tunes that I use, but for Lecha Dodi, for example, I would say a dozen tunes that I might use and switch around from week to week. But by us, no, it was always, variety and introducing new tunes, and as they came to me, as things that I liked. So, driven by me. I'm sorry?
It's primarily Ashkenazi, your community?
Primarily Ashkenazi, yeah.
And am I correct in assuming you don't have any instrumental accompaniment?
I don't have any objection halachically to instrumental accompaniment. I just don't like it in most contexts, just aesthetically. Having said that, we did start doing, not every month, but about once a month, a Kabbalat Shabbat service in which I did use a guitar, and would occasionally have guests as well. So maybe a drum or percussion of some kind, or I think once I had a cello or a violin. So but that was very Kabbalat Shabbati, and we put it away for Mariv. Again, not for halachic reasons, but just because it's to my aesthetic,
Do you get restless singing, doing the same melody each time, or why would you change it?
Well, just because there are so many beautiful melodies, and it seems like to restrict yourself to, the same thing every week is to rob yourself of this extraordinary variety of beauty. And, you don't turn the same record on every week, every time you go to your record player, right? You've got many records, you listen to lots of records because you want to hear different things. And so it's really just about that. It gets boring after a while to me.
Where do you get those melodies from, Sam? Do you make them up, or you hear them from someplace else?
A lot of them I grew up with. Some of them I composed. Some of them I picked up along the way, as you do, in the world of cantorial, the cantorial world. You're going to conferences, you're talking to colleagues, you hear something. You've got YouTube now, God knows. So yeah, you just pick things up all the time.
That's
fabulous. Can we turn now to the two pieces that you're going to be singing?
I want to ask one question. How does the congregation feel if you change the melody? Will they sing along, or what happens?
Yeah, I have my techniques for introducing new melodies, just like everybody does. They love new melodies. I've never, ever had a complaint. And in fact, on the contrary, I think you get very enthusiastic remarks when...
So in the Lecha Dodi that you're going to do for us, how would you characterize it? Is it pretty much participatory, or is there an opportunity for nusach and improvisation in it? What is your thought process that goes into putting it together?
I have a thing about certain services that I believe are under pretty much any circumstance, very, very special circumstances maybe, but under most circumstances are democratized. So including Hallel and Kabbalat Shabbat for sure. So those two services, I want everybody singing. Kabbalat Shabbat very much feels like that to me. It's something that everybody should be singing, everybody should be participating, everybody should be feeling the ruach of Shabbat as much as possible.
Sure. And do you consider things like keys that make it comfortable to the congregation in order to make sure they can participate fully?
Absolutely. Being a baritone, that's generally a good range for most congregants.
And in things like Lechadodi and the Musaf Kedusha that you're going to be doing for us, do you leave room for cantorial variation or some ornamentation, anything like that? Are there spots for that within?
In the Kedusha?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Again, I do it differently every week. So, there are basically, aside from Lidor Vador, there are 4 bodies of text in the Musa and in the conservative Siddur. So some of them, some weeks I will sing, I'll use congregational melodies for all 4 of them. Sometimes I will speed daven through 2 and sing 2 or something like that. Sometimes I'll do a piece for one of them. So it really just depends. It's really different every week.
We'd love for you to sing your pieces.
Lechadodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lechadodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Ishmiyanu el hamiyuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shem u'letiferet v'litila, Lechadodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lechadodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, Ki mekor haderacha, Merosh mikedem nesucha, Sof maseh b'machashavat echila, Lechadodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lechadodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. It'oreri, ki va'orech kumi ori, uri, shir dabeiri, kevod Adonai alayich nigla, lechadodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lechadodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lo tevoshi lo tikalmi, ma tishtochachi umatemi, bach yechesu אני ימי ונבנתה עיר על תילה לך דודי לקראת כלה יללי 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 בני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה יללי 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 בני שבת נקבלה בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה גם בשמחה ובצולה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי כלה לך דודי לקראת כלה יללי 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 בני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה יללי 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 בני שבת נקבלה. מוסף. ונאמנתה העדות מתים ברוך אתה השם מחיי המתים. נריצך ונקדישך כסוד שיח שרפי קודש המקדישים שמך בקודש ככתוב על יד נביאך וכרזה לזה ויאמר קדוש 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 שם צבאות מלוך כל הארץ כבודו כבודו מלא עולם כבודו מלא עולם משרתה ושואלים שואלים זה לזה איה מקום מקום כבודו איה מקום מקום כבודו ליומתם ליומתם ברוך יום ירו ברוך כבוד השם ממקומו ממקומו יפן ברחמים ויחונם המייחד עם שמו ערב ובוקר בכל יום תמיד פעמיים באהבה שמה אומרים שמה ישראל השם אלוקינו השם אחד הוא אלוקינו הוא אבינו הוא מלכנו הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו ברחמיו שנית לעיני כל חי, והוא ישמיענו ברחמיו שנית, לעיני כל חי, להיות לכם לאלוקים, אני אדושם אלוקיכם, ודברי קודשך כתוב לאמור. ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהי ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה, לדור ודור נגידו לך ולנצחים קדושתך נקדיש. שמך ואלוקינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד, כי על מלך גדול וקדוש אתה ברוך, אתה אדושם האל הקדוש.
That was fabulous. Beautiful work.